We're living in an era of unprecedented threats coming from directions no one could have anticipated. Jill Stein, you just saw, now a Russian agent. Here's a new one we told you about last night: racist trees. In Palm Springs, California, city officials are planning to clear-cut a grove of tamarisk trees because they're racist. Locals say they were planted more than 50 years ago to separate a golf course from an African-American neighborhood. Last night we spoke to a local resident about their sinister presence. Here's part of the conversation.
If you've done any research on the tree, you'll know that's one of the nastiest trees around, and it's also been declared an environmental disaster by the federal government.
What?
They grow to be 60
because
feet
it's
tall,
a wait, no, slow down. Now, well,
wide.
hold on. Now, hold on. Because that tree is a foreign tree, you're calling it
Correct.
nasty? Okay,
absolutely.
I guess. Question is, could Palm Springs be overreacting at all to the racist trees in its midst? Aptly named Forrest Richardson is a golf course architect. He's consulted on the course in question, actually. Ethan Bearman is a radio show host, and they join us tonight. First to you, Ethan. You've been following this. You're from California. Clearly, this is the definition of structural racism. But I wonder if it couldn't be worse. I mean, these are tamarisk trees. If they were white pine trees, would they be more racist, do you think?
No, the trees themselves aren't racist. It was the actions putting them there in the first place. But also, I think it's really important to note, these trees in particular have been a fire hazard this year. You look at, Fox has done a great job covering like the Thomas fire. Tamarisk trees themselves have been explosive during these fires that have been happening. So not only do we have the aspect of the traditional, the origin of the planting of these trees being to separate the black and people of color community across the street after their homes were demolished, by the way, by the city of Palm Springs under racist conditions. This is one of those times, let's set the record straight. Let's clear out trees that are fire hazard. Let's not waste the water, and let's set things
so everybody
straight.
Wins. The trees are not just bigoted, but they're flammable. Forrest, here's my concern. If we take down the racist trees, could the homes behind them be hit by racist golf balls?
Well, I don't know. I would like to think that nothing's racist, especially in today's world.
I would too, but my eyes are open now.
The reality is that I don't know why these trees were planted. I don't think that there's any clear indication of why they were planted. One reason that we plant trees on golf courses, especially on narrow corridors, which this happens to be. This is about 240 feet in width, whereas today we would generally get 350 to almost 400, is to protect adjacent homes and property, whether it be a school or houses. And in my opinion, I think the win-win would be to get everyone on board and say what's good for the homeowners and what's good for the golf course and what's good for the other homeowners.
Sure, but it's 2017. We don't do compromise. I mean, come on now. It's the modern era. But let me just ask you, is there, just to clarify, as a landscape guy, are there other reasons other than simply bigotry that they might have been planted?
I did as much research as I could. When I worked briefly on a study for this golf course, we got a lot of historical data, and I was able to find what we think is an early 1960s image that actually shows that this hedge of tamarisk trees was probably there before many of the houses were built. Not all of them, but the hedge was probably predated many of the homes being built there. So,
but that, obviously that doesn't mean they're not racist trees. I mean, because, sometimes it's not obvious if a tree is racist or not. But Ethan, let me just get, and I sort of buy your point that they're both bigoted and a fire hazard. But I wonder if this isn't a teaching moment, right? A time when we could all learn. Instead of cutting them down, maybe we could make them better trees somehow, prune them. Is that not a possibility?
No, let's get them out of there. Let's get back to some native trees that we have in California.
Seems kind of
that's pure desert.
What do you mean? Wait, slow down. What do you mean native? For a guy who's in California, I'm serious. Palm trees are not native. Eucalyptus are not native. Should you expel everything from California that's not native? Okay, so are you a nativist now?
When it comes to vegetation, absolutely. Eucalyptus trees have become a real problem with tipping over in the storms.
And you're calling other people bigoted. All right. They weren't originally from California, therefore we have to kill them.
But come on, Tucker, we have a severe water problem in California. We have a lack of leadership in Sacramento. We have a lack of leadership in D.C. when it comes to the water issue in California. And we're diverting water to water trees. Why are we doing this?
I know, I agree.
There's so many layers here.
But Forrest, let me just finally close out. I mean, is it possible that if we cut these down, you don't always know what you've got till it's gone? I mean, if you were to pave it and put in a parking lot, do you think you might regret that?
Well, the trees are serving a purpose, I can tell you that. Now, if they could maybe be replaced by better trees,
yeah.
You know, I think your guest last night mentioned eucalyptus, so it's interesting your guest tonight is saying no eucalyptus, and that's
because
why
I got to go, but they're foreign trees. Yeah. We're against foreigners now. Forrest, Ethan, thank you for that. I think you've cleared up a lot.
Good to be with you.
Merry Christmas,
Thank
Tucker.
you.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.